Hey, quick question. What do these jobs have in common? Accountant, carpenter, beautician, electrician, photographer, graphic artist, interior designer, choreographer, writer, chef, seamstress. They all work in the Oklahoma film industry. And there's a place for you to join the action. Learn more about starting your film career in Oklahoma by visiting okfilmmusic.org/getting started.
Welcome to the 20th Annual Virtual deadCenter Film Festival. My name's Yusuf Kazmi. I'm the Program and Outreach Coordinator for the Oklahoma Film and Music Office. We are so excited to bring you our OF+MO Film School series. The next session is on on-set etiquette with Richard Janes and Alisha East. We invite you to tune in. If you're watching through social media, please send in your comments and questions. We'll be doing a live Q&A with the duo after this. Thank you. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and we look forward to connecting with you shortly.
Okay, so welcome everyone to the deadCenter Film Etiquette class brought to you by the Oklahoma Film and Music Office, the fantastic guys that make sure that they're promoting everything that's going on in Oklahoma and trying to bring as much production to Oklahoma as possible so that we can all have wonderful jobs. And with me today is the fantastic Alisha East. Hello, Alisha.
Hey. How are you today?
I am marvelous. I'm really excited to be chatting with you today because one of the things that's come up as we've looked at a number of productions that have come into town recently is this idea of set etiquette and the expectation of when you're on set, how to behave. And there are some things that are very natural that we'll know, and there are some things that we don't know, and there are some things that we think are actually really friendly and can be engaging and are just our wonderful Oklahoma. It's the thing about Oklahomans that drew me to moving to Oklahoma, this wanting to chat, sit down and talk, but in some cases can get in the way of a production and actually not give the message that we're hoping to. So initially, let's start with the definition of etiquette. And I have a feeling the reason why they asked me to do the etiquette class and then to bring you in is because of my English accent, right? The etiquette means the customary code of polite behavior in society or among members of a particular profession or group. A customary code of polite behavior. So if we think about a customary code, it's that unsaid set of rules. Now, right. Let's kick this off by really understanding a little bit about your background, then I can give a little bit about mine. But you have got a phenomenal background across so many different productions where you had to learn very quickly that customary code, that etiquette of how to behave on set. So what's your background?
I moved to Los Angeles in 2012 and I started work as a set production assistant finally in 2014. Took me a couple of years to get in. But I've spent probably over 700 days on set as a production assistant, probably on over about 55 productions in the TV and film industry out in LA. I've spent about 75 days on set as an assistant director. My days as a PA has now given me the position on the Directors Guild of America qualifications list as a second AD. So now I'm a second AD third area, which is great. I'm also on the DGA commercial qualifications list. So I spent those amount of days on set as an AD. I've spent about 200, I would say, 250 days on set as either a background performer or a stand-in through the Screen Actors Guild. And I've spent about 60 days on set as transportation. So I worked in probably a total 1,000 plus days on set. So I definitely understand how a set's run and the etiquette that needs to happen on set. So I'm looking forward to talking about this with you and hopefully educating and teaching all the people listening to this about what needs to happen on a set.
Now, name drop a little bit for us. Tell us some of the shows that you've worked on.
Okay, I've worked on Modern Family. I've worked on Pretty Little Liars. I've worked on Grandfathered, The Real O'Neills, State of Affairs. I've worked on American Horror Story, American Crime Story, Versace, Law and Order, True Crime Menendez, The Mandalorian. And as far as features go, I've worked on The Conjuring 2, 12 Strong, Downsizing, and The Dark Tower. So those are
Wow,
just a
look
few.
at that list. I mean, you must have a problem with a resume getting it all on one page now, right?
Yeah, I've deleted a lot over the years, and I've just put the main ones. But luckily, it's kind of like once you get into the film industry, you don't really even need a resume because it's pretty much word of mouth and who you know. So once you're in, you're in. It's really difficult to get in, but once you're in and you've got a great attitude and a great work ethic, you're pretty much in. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I don't have a longer list of credits because a lot of my sort of background was either as an actor on a long-running show in England or in the producer or director side. So I started off as a precocious child actor in the UK, doing all sorts of children's BBC TV shows, and then graduated onto the sort of police procedural sort of stuff. And then I went and worked in commercials for a number of years with Terry Gilliam and Tarsem, two of the top commercial directors in the world. And that brought me into theater. That got me into making my first feature film at the age of 22 when I raised $1 million to go and shoot that. That brought me to Los Angeles and moving to LA as a result of falling in love with my wife. I had no plans to move and live in LA. It was always I was going to visit. And then I met Amy, and she had a deal at Paramount Pictures. So it was a case of, you know what, we're going to move. And, you know, fortunate enough to spend some time on some real indie productions and then some massive, massive multi-million-dollar projects similar to yourself. And it's interesting because there's a lot of similarity between the British way of working and the American way of working. But then just the same as with our language, there are some real slight differences as well. So I'm excited to explore some of these with you and hopefully set up everyone who's watching this today so that you can have a better understanding of either that first time you go onto a set, because we've got so many films and TV shows coming into Oklahoma at the moment, that if you want to work in film and TV, now is the time. This is it. We're going through our golden age. And so if you either are going on set for the first time, or if you're in a position where you've done some projects, but you want to go deeper, you want to move up the ranks, this is a great way to look at some of those things that you may not have thought about, but can really make a difference on someone saying, I'm going to need that person for my next job, which I think brings me to my first point. When you understand set etiquette, that enables you to get your next job. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely.
How many of the work that you have is as a result of relationships? How many jobs are as a result of relationships you formed on previous projects?
Every single job. Every single job. It's all about understanding how it works, being polite and respectful to other people, and being kind. You know, you're spending 15 hours a day with people. If they don't like you, you're not going to get hired on the next job. If you're not kind to people, seriously, and we have to all get along. We have to be there together and understand the value of teamwork. And if you don't understand these things and you're not kind to people and you don't respect people, you're not going to get the next job, because nobody wants to spend 70 hours a week with someone who's disrespectful and rude.
So I think that's actually a good point as well that you bring up there. 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
There are some people who don't realize how many hours.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't before. Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, you know, from Arkansas, went to the University of Oklahoma, moved straight to LA. And, you know, I didn't have any clue that we would be working that many hours. And a lot of shows, if you're on episodic, you know, television, it's 4 to 6 months. And sometimes you have a hiatus week in there that you can take a break. Sometimes you don't. So it's an endurance gig for sure.
So let's kick off with the first sort of big one, which is your first day on set. What can you do to make sure you're really nailing this idea of set etiquette? And the first thing really is punctuality and turning up on time, right?
Absolutely. Be on time. I mean, and especially, you know, in LA, and I know that we don't have similar issues with traffic here in Oklahoma City, as I'm loving. I just moved back here. But in LA, you know, you got traffic. You know, it might take you an hour and a half to get to the set, and this might be an hour and a half every single day, and you're used to that. But then there's a wreck on the road, and now it's going to take you 2 hours. And I understand there are some unfortunate situations, but at the same time, punctuality, being on time, it's so important. This is a job. And even though we have a great time and we have fun, we still need to remember that this is structured and it's a job. So
Now, one of the things that I think some people perhaps don't realize when making films as well is that it's not as if you're going to one place the entire time, unless, of course, you're
Right.
based on a studio. But
Right.
you probably are going to be going to many, many different places that you have never been to before. And the risk there of you getting those directions slightly wrong or mistiming how long that will take. I mean, Waze is awesome, but we all know that sometimes Waze gets it wrong. And so what would you advise for people who are looking at it and going, I don't really know where this location is, but I've got a set call time of 6 a.m.
Yeah. So let's say Google Maps or, the Maps app tells you that it's going to take you 45 minutes to get to this location. I would leave with an hour and 15 minutes. I always try to give myself at least a 30-minute buffer, if not more, because I would rather get there early, kind of get my bearings straight, because it's true. Sometimes you're shooting at a park in the middle of nowhere and you're having to go through windy roads and you get lost. You've got to give yourself enough time in case you do get lost, in case those crew parking signs for whatever reason aren't out and you don't know where it is. You've got to give yourself enough time. And I would rather get there early, sit in my car, have a little meditation moment, or go to catering, get some breakfast. It's much better to be early than to be late or to be stressed. It also, when you're pushing the limit, it's also going to increase you're going to start the day stressed out. And I've done that myself. I'm speaking from experience. It's better to just give yourself time because you don't want to start the day super stressed out and worried. You'd rather start the day chill.
The other thing is that no matter what role you're playing, you are an integral part of this machine working effectively. It's the reason why you're there. If you weren't an integral part, your job wouldn't be there. They wouldn't be employing you. So if you are late, you're holding things up. And when you look at the cost per hour of production, it is astronomical. And so the more that you can do to make sure that you are not holding things up, but also when you turn up, making sure that you know that you've spoken to your direct report and let them know that you're there and you're ready to start work. Because I've seen that a couple of times where it's been a case of, where's so-and-so? Where's so-and-so? And they've come and they've said, oh, I've been here for an hour, but they didn't let anyone know that they were there and they were ready.
Yes. That's a good point, Richard, because I always check in. It doesn't matter, where you are. Oh, I'm going to get breakfast. Always hop on the walkie. That's why we have walkies. Hop on the walkie and say, hey, Richard, just want to let you know, I'm here. If you need anything, let me know. I'm going to grab some breakfast. But you're right. Just letting people know that you're here, making your presence known, and then go about, getting your breakfast if you're early or having your meditation moment or whatever.
And actually,
so I think that's a good point.
Breakfast on a film set. I mean, that was one of my favorite times when I go on a film set. It's just, oh, yes. Now this leads neatly on to dependability, which obviously starts with, oh, you've accepted the job, you're going to turn up. But also being dependable through the day when people ask you to do things. Talk to me a little bit about how that works, because you've been responsible for other PAs around you as well, correct?
Yes.
So what marks one PA out as dependable versus another?
Yeah. So I won't mention the movie just so I can speak freely, but I was a key set PA on a movie where I was the only person from Los Angeles and the other PAs were local. And I was having to be like, hey, I need your help with this. Hey, I need you to have this lockup. I need you to do this. And I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to have all of these things and these duties in your mind. And when you're talking to a teammate and say, hey, could you please take this case of water to the background? Or could you please, once I say it and I've delegated the task, I'm expecting it to get done because I have so many other things I need to worry about. I have the cast to take care of. I have the background to wrangle and give a speech to. So when I say, hey, could you go give a hot brick to the electrician over there? I say it and I want to forget about it because I've already delegated that task. And when the PAs aren't doing, they're like, yeah, and then they don't do it, the problem still exists. It's still there. That person still needs a break. The background still need water. And then you no longer want to ask that person anymore, but you also no longer want to work with that person anymore. And I would tell the ADs, hey, listen, this person's not stepping up. They're not doing what's asked of them. They're sitting in a corner. I had a PA once on a TV show. He would sit in a corner and read a book. And so Yeah. So
Oh, wow.
every crew member, every cast, everybody was talking to me because we were the only two PAs on a show. And a month into the show, I did a little survey at catering, and I said, "Hey, does anyone know the name of the other PA?" And they're like, "Wait, there's another PA on the show?" And I was
Oh
like,
my
"My point
goodness.
exactly." And that person got fired. I sent my list of all the crew members that didn't know who this person was because he wasn't accountable, he wasn't dependable, he didn't do anything he was asked, and he got fired. And the ADs that I worked for the next 3 years never hired that kid again.
Wow. Well, that makes so much sense, right? You have to be dependable. My dog has
Yep.
just walked in the background. Obviously, he's finding this incredibly
Cameo.
interesting. But when you look at dependability, part of this is making sure that you've established the fact that you're dependable very
Yes.
early on, so that
Yes.
when you're asked to do something, it's 100% presumed that it's done. I think
Yep.
the other thing, to your point, is that film sets can notoriously be a lot of hanging around doing nothing.
Mhm.
And if you want to take that mentality and just take a back seat, you're not going to go anywhere, because
Right.
you, especially at those early stages in your career, you have to be standing there ready to go at any moment, listening to what everyone's needs are, so that then you can react. And that doesn't mean jumping into every department. Obviously, if you're in an
Sure.
indie movie, that may be the case, where you've got no money and you're all doubling up. But
Right.
on a bigger project, such as the ones that are coming into Oklahoma from Los Angeles, you have to be alert and sensitive to what everyone's needs are 100% of the time. So if you're off reading a book in the corner, that's a no-go. You're not going to last in
Right. No, absolutely not. You have to have a work ethic, and especially like you're pointing out in the beginning, you have to be the go-getter. You have to be the one who's, yes sir, yes ma'am, copy that, and doing whatever is asked. Now on the flip side of that, and I am sure we'll get to this later, walkie etiquette. But on the flip side of that, be eager to do the job. But if someone else copies the job, then it is understood that that person is now responsible for that specific duty. If an AD says, "Hey, can someone please go and get the background for me?" Or, "Hey, can someone please go and get this water for me?" Copy that. Then you let that person do it, because if you start to jump on those responsibilities and beat someone to it, then it can cause discourse as well. So that's, I'm sure you have a plan to get to walkie etiquette later, but.
Well, I think this actually leads us neatly on to the next element, which, because you've used some terms as we've been chatting here, like a hot brick, and there are lots of very, very peculiar terms, and many of them are used over the radios on a film set. Now, I don't think anyone expects someone who it's their first day on the film set to know all of these terms.
No.
But the quicker that you can pick those up, the easier you're going to be able to communicate with everyone around you. And part of set etiquette is being able to effectively communicate. What would be your advice to someone who perhaps doesn't have that terminology down just yet, but obviously has a yearning to learn, but doesn't want to slow things down?
And is this person on set yet or not?
I think this is the first day on set, and people are throwing some terms at them and they're going, "I don't know."
Yeah. So my advice is ask questions. If you're a PA, go up to your fellow PA or go up to your AD and say, "Hey, what does 10-1 mean?" You're like, "Oh, that means go to the bathroom." "Oh, okay. Hey, what does turning around mean?" "Oh, that means that we're going to move all of the cameras and the lights and the equipment, and we're going to literally shift the camera angle. And we're going to turn around over this person's shoulder onto this person, and we're going to turn around, and now we're going to shoot over their shoulder onto this person." What is copy that? Yeah, that's how you respond. That's how you say, "Yep, I'm agreeing to do that task," or, "Yeah, I heard you, understand you, copy that, copy." It's simple. That's literally all we use all day long. And so I would say, don't be afraid to ask questions. Asking questions is how you learn. If you're afraid and you're intimidated on set and you don't ask these questions, then you're not gonna understand. You're just gonna be lost all day. So I would recommend, don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask your fellow PA. Ask them what they're saying.
Now, the other thing you can do, just like if you go to France, it's an element of etiquette to be able to speak a little bit of the language, right? And before you go to France, some people might look up some simple phrases. Hello, can I have a coffee? Whatever that is. There are a ton of resources out there to look up this terminology and get a basic understanding. And if suddenly you've been asked to do a job tomorrow and it's your first job on set, Google is your best friend. You will be able to find some amazing stuff on there in an hour, 2 hours to prep you up to have a lot more success than anyone else who's coming green to that set. I know one of the things that you and I are working on at the moment is some stuff with the Oklahoma Film and TV Academy. And through that, we're looking at what is that terminology? But that really sets you apart from everyone else very quickly to have a good understanding over what that terminology is. But Google's your best friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you're not going to be able to learn everything about a set, because honestly, a set is really learned, by throwing yourself into it and by the hands-on experience. So you might not understand some of the phrases, but I absolutely agree. Just knowing a few terms going into it is so important, and you'll learn the rest once you get there.
Now, one of the other things that I think, this is set etiquette, not just for newbies. This is a set etiquette, and I know you're going to laugh at this. This is a set etiquette for every position. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. You could have been on Oscar-winning movies, and there are people who don't get this etiquette right. That is
absolutely
understanding the call sheet, because the call sheet is your map for the day and has so much information on it. And yet so many people don't look at the call sheet and waste other people's time asking questions. And I have a feeling often they're asking you, Alisha, when is this happening? What's happening with this?
Oh man, that's the one note I have made is, in all caps, read the call sheet. Yeah, it's very annoying because the call sheet is self-explanatory. And, the first AD has spent all day planning and scheduling. The second AD has spent all day planning and scheduling and preparing this document with literally every piece of information that you could ever hope for or dream or want to know about the next day's work, and about today's work. So you could respect them and respect the process by reading the call sheet. We willfully disseminate this piece of paper and an email that you could pull up out of your back pocket or on your phone at any time that has all of the information that you could want. And it's disrespectful, and it's also kind of annoying. I think people have this tendency on set to just ask the PAs and ask the ADs everything. Hey, where's lunch? Look at the call sheet. It tells you. Hey, when is this or when is that? When is this actress coming in? Look at the call sheet, because we have so many other responsibilities that we need to take care of on set. And if people would just take the initiative to look around, assess the situation, make a decision for yourself instead of depending on the PAs and the AD department to do everything for you. So yeah, read the call sheet. I can't tell you how many times you might think you're the only person asking where's lunch, but honestly, 70 people have come up to us in the past 10 minutes and said, where's lunch? And that information is readily available for you. So read the call sheet.
So on that note, someone just got a phone call last night because a friend is on a film here in Oklahoma. Can you come in? They need a PA to be doing some stuff. You turn up on the first day. You've heard about this thing called a call sheet, and you may have looked it up on Google the night before to understand what it is. But you haven't been given a call sheet. I would argue at that point it's your duty to try and get a copy of the call sheet. And who would you go and ask for a copy of the call sheet?
You would ask the ADs. I mean, assuming that that's the person that emailed you, if they're looking for a PA. The second AD is usually the person that is in charge of the AD team, kind of with giving information. However, the production office is typically the people that send that email with the call sheet at the end of the night. So if you've received an email from the production office, then email them. Pretty much anyone has the call sheet if they are staff on a show. Let's say that you're an electrician and the gaffer or the best boy electrician hired you, then ask them. And if they don't have it, then find the production office and ask them. But really any staff member. If you're a day player, any staff member will have the call sheet and should be willing to give it to you.
Now, one of the things you can do if they have the call sheet, but there's no spare, is you can get out a trusty thing called your phone and take a quick photo of it so that you can see it. But that also leads me to one of the other set etiquette, which is cell phone usage and social media usage on a set. Now, there are many sets that will put up signs everywhere saying no social media. There are some sets that actually refuse no one can have a phone on set. Have you ever been on a set where you're not allowed to have a phone?
Yeah. So on The Mandalorian, you cannot pull out your phone at all. They have hired security on the set. The security on that show was probably the craziest security I've ever seen, and rightfully so. And actually, what's interesting on the note of call sheets on this show, for example, the call sheets were heavily redacted. The character names on the call sheet, different names. The description of things, different words, different names. And in fact, they didn't actually ever give out sides or call sheets, only for specific people on that set. And then at the end of the day, you had to turn those in because they were watermarked with your name. So they knew exactly who they were giving them to, and they knew exactly who turned them in. So there are some sets where you're not going to have a clue what's going on. And imagine being I was a production assistant, day player for The Mandalorian. And imagine being the hub of communication, the hub of information for people. But I didn't really know what was happening. I had to go and ask the ADs, hey, what are we doing today? Because they wouldn't give call sheets. That was interesting. But yes, I have been on shows that said, hey, don't pull out your phones. Don't do anything like that. Don't post. Every show I've ever been on says don't post anything on social media. And maybe this is the wrong thing to say, but even though that's said, a lot of people do take photos and videos on set, but it's kind of understood that if you're going to do that, you don't post it until that episode has aired.
Yeah,
because if you post it before,
I would argue only do that once you've got an established rapport with the crew and everyone going on. If it's your first day or first week or first 2 weeks on a project where they've been together for a while, don't even think about it. I was on a shoot that I was directing once where the sound man decided to shoot a video as we were doing a complicated shot, and he hold a boom pole as well. It was a single sound guy. And he ended up getting in the shot because he was too focused on getting his little video with the sun. And it was a shot of the sun just setting behind a car. So it was one of these things that the timing had to be perfect. And there he is getting in the way. I went absolutely berserk. But you have to, you getting your social media content or anything like that, that could mean that you never work again. So be very, very, very careful. Especially once you get onto these bigger projects, because they are looking for what people are saying. They're looking for what people are posting, and you don't want to get a black mark against your name.
No. And like you said, if you haven't developed a personal relationship, like for example, I ran First Team, which are the actors on shows mostly. So I never once, and I worked 6 months with these people, 70 hours a week. They had my phone number. I had theirs. We were friends. But I never once asked for a photo until the last day of set. Then I would ask for a picture, but I had established a relationship with these people. I had established rapport, and I wasn't doing it for like, oh, cool. I'm like, hey, I want to show my grandkids this photo and remember this time,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen people, day players, show up on set and ask. I was on a Modern Family, and I saw some of the background artists go up and ask Sofia Vergara for a photo on set in costume, hair, makeup. Like, what are you doing, guys? I mean, that's the quickest way to be fired.
I've seen that as well. I did. I was on Hail Caesar, the Joel and Ethan Coen movie, and you've got Ray Fiennes there, and it was background extras were walking up to him as he was walking back to his trailer, asking for those photographs. Now, as you say, swiftly they were let go, very swiftly. You especially out here, and it's interesting because on a set like we had Stillwater here with Matt Damon, and Matt Damon is such a phenomenal guy and understands that taking these photos are part of it. And you have legislators coming down and they're having their selfies taken, and you have locals that are coming out and the kids are watching, and you'll go up and have those photos. just because they're having photos and they're doing selfies with these other people around doesn't give you that excuse to say, now I'm going to do it, because you are a professional and an equal to them. And we don't want to change that relationship.
Yes. And that could segue us into the next point of be professional. That's something that I wanted to talk about, and be professional in your clothing. I think that a film set's kind of like teenage summer camp. We have sexual harassment courses that crew members on union shows have to take. We have no bullying classes, no discrimination classes, safety classes, all of these things. But I think that people often forget the structure that's in place and the need to be professional, because it is kind of fun, right? It's like summer camp. Everybody shows up. You can wear a hat and sneakers and sweatpants if you want. Nobody really cares. It's very fun. There's no, we're at a different location every time. We're out and about, and it's fun. But I think it's so important to remember to be professional. Don't wear clothing that would offend someone else or would reveal too much. And honestly, on the topic of sexual harassment, don't harass people. You're going to be working with a diverse group of people, and this is still a job. It might not be as structured like we're in an office 9 to 5 in a professional attire, but it's still a job. Don't bully people. Respect people.
Yeah, 100%. That's our industry is known for shouters, right? Unfortunately, it is. Don't become one yourself. And I know that's difficult if you're someone who's being shouted at and then you get a slightly higher position to go, well, this is how I was taught. But ultimately, that never does any good. And that shouter got to the position they're in for some other reason. Because believe me, we don't like to encourage and promote through the ranks shouters, because no one likes to work with them. But back to clothing slightly, because clothing's a really important part of this. And one of the things I'd say is always have some spare clothes with you, depending on what that weather's like, and make sure you've got comfortable shoes, because there is nothing worse than having someone turn up on set not dressed right. And I've worked we shot commercials in deep snow, and I had a Steadicam operator turn up with plimsolls, and within half an hour his feet were so cold. We flew him in from LA, and he just hadn't thought about what he should be wearing, so he couldn't actually do his job properly. So make sure that it's always good to have your little pack of stuff, including some rain gear and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So that you are the most prepared person on set. And when you're prepared, that's showing respect for everyone else.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every set that you're ever on, closed-toed shoes. Honestly, it's a safety issue. Closed-toed shoes. Always wear the appropriate gear. And I always kept a set of rain gear in the back of my car. So if I ever needed to go back and get it, I had it, or I'd throw it in my backpack. And you need to be prepared for every situation, because there are going to be times where you're on set and it's 70 degrees and all of a sudden it's going to start raining, and then you're going to be standing out there in shorts and a tank top and, freezing.
So we got clothes done. Let's talk about 2 other things with set etiquette. Deodorant, perfume, aftershave, and breath. They're pretty important things when it comes down to working on a film set, because in many cases you can be working in a very small room with a lot of very heavy lights. And I've been on a set where someone has got so much perfume on or so much cologne on that it overpowers that room so quickly. And yet then I've also been in rooms where someone wears nothing, and those rooms get really hot. No one can actually breathe in that room anymore. And then the other thing is, in many cases, when you're working really closely with someone, which you are in these confined spaces, we can smell other people's breath pretty quickly. And so these are a few things that you just need to think about. Don't put too many smelly stuff on, but do make sure you've got deodorant on. And you've perhaps got deodorant in your bag as well. Drink lots of water, because that's going to help with the breath, but also have some mints or something as well, because you don't want to be that one person that people go, you know what, they're great, but let's try and get them perhaps in the office or something like that instead, away from us in these tight environments, if you don't want to be going to the office, because you could have taken some very simple steps in respecting everyone that you're working with around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely been in very small spaces, and either way of that spectrum, it's not good.
And look,
It's not good.
sometimes you can't help it, right? And I get
Sure.
that. You are lugging massive amounts of equipment around. If you are on, you know, an electrician or a gaffer or a grip or what have you, we sweat. We're human beings, especially in Oklahoma in the summer. My goodness. But we just got to be aware of that and plan for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this brings me to the next thing, which is two-sided, which is quiet on set. And then something that I alluded to earlier, which is the Oklahoma friendliness of chatting with people. So let's talk about initially quiet on set, because when someone says quiet on set, you got to be quiet on set, right?
Oh, this is probably, and this falls under, when I was taking notes on what to say, this falls under respect. There are so many different levels of respect on the set, and this is a major point. We all know that when we're rolling, we need to be quiet. Why people sometimes still do not follow that major rule, I don't understand. It's respect for the actors. It's respect for the director. It's respect for the producers and their money. Time is money. And also, it's respect for yourself, because at the end of the day, all we want to do is shoot the content we need to shoot for that day and go home to our families, right? So you're prolonging the process if you're talking on set, because sound's going to be upset and we're going to have to go again. The actor's going to be upset. What if the actor gave the best performance? They've been waiting all day and conjuring up feelings to be able to cry in this scene, and you were laughing and telling a joke with your buddy and ruin the take. Well, now we have to go again, and everyone's going to be upset with you. And quiet on set. Respect the rules. Respect the rules on a set. And if a PA, respect the PAs. If the PAs are telling you rolling, all right, guys, we're rolling. Quiet, please. Respect them, because obviously they're trying to. Their information, number one, is coming from the higher ups, coming from the ADs who run the set, and number two, that's what a set is. We set up, and you can talk while we're setting up, do whatever you want. As soon as we start rolling, zip it, because that's where our money comes from, and that's whether or not we make the day, honestly.
Now, one thing is chatting to a friend or someone and just chatting about what have you. The other one that I've seen, which is where you're chatting to someone higher up, you're perhaps chatting to a producer, you're chatting to, and perhaps that producer, you're answering a question, but as soon as you hear quiet on set, you have to be quiet. Don't finish everything that you were saying. Be quiet on set. Now, if the producer says carry on, then if the producer's saying it, you carry on telling the producer what you need to do. But 9 times out of 10, that producer will respect you even more for you immediately quieting down. And then don't be the first person to speak at the end when they say cut. Wait for other people to start speaking, and then you can speak.
Sure. And I think, another point to that, you mentioned producer, and maybe this is taking us away from this point, but my advice is to not go up to the actors, to the DP or director of photography, to the director, to the first AD, unless it's a good time, or unless they've reached out to you first. And it's not because they're better than you and they're higher up than you and we're gonna like praise them and everything. No, it's because they have a lot that's going on in their mind. They're in charge of the creative direction and the way that the set is run, and they've got a lot going on, and they need to be able to sit there and focus on their job. And if you're going up to them and talking their ear off, again, not gonna make our day. And again, you could interject yourself into the wrong conversation, and they go, you know what, I don't like that girl over there. She keeps coming up to me and saying something to me and trying to pitch me her project, and I honestly don't want to have it. And then you're not coming back the next day. You know what I mean? So my advice is don't go up to any of the higher ups unless it's a welcoming environment and they're welcoming it, or they ask you first.
And often those opportunities are really breakfast in the morning when everyone's relaxed, or perhaps lunch, or when everyone's leaving, not during that working time. But I think that that brings me on to this other part, which is, and I've had some feedback, and this happens a lot when you're in very friendly environments where we all just like to talk, we're friendly. It's part of our charm in Oklahoma, and it's something that I love. But on a film set, we don't want you talking all the time. We don't want you engaging with everyone all the time. The idea is for you to be there to jump into action when you can and be there to help, but not to be talking all the time.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced that with some newbies on some of the projects you've worked with where they just want to talk.
Yeah. And it's, here's what I say. When we're not rolling, honestly, I've been on so many shows, so many sets, some of the biggest ones in TV, some would say, when we're not rolling, you can talk. I mean, we're there to bond. We're there. If there's nothing to do. Now, if you have a job to do, then you need to do your job. But when you've done everything, the background are good, they're in holding, you're standing by, you're ready to bring them in, and someone comes up to you, yeah, sure, like talk, not loudly, because again, we need to respect the DP and the cameraman and the grips and the electricians who are setting up the shots. But you can talk. But as soon as we say rolling, listen, I've had so many people who've been in the business for 40 years, blah, 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 while we're rolling. And I'm like, they're the first people to remind me that they've been in this business longer than I've been alive. But I'm like, hey, if that's the case, then hey, don't talk. You should know that we don't talk when we're rolling. So. And
you may think on set when they're rolling that you are whispering and you are well away from the action.
Yes.
But they can pick you up. So do not even attempt to do it. Do not, once it's rolling, stop walking. You're not going to walk anywhere at that point. Don't put any glasses down on tables. You have to be as quiet as a mouse while they're rolling. Stay completely still until you hear the cut, and then you can carry on with what you were doing. Now, listen, I'm fully aware that we want to get a Q&A in here, and we're nearly at 50 minutes. We can go on to, I know, it's crazy.
I have so much more to say. I'm not even halfway through my notes.
So here's what I'm thinking, right? Here's what I'm thinking is, because I think they've scheduled us for 45 minutes. So why don't we pause? We can answer some questions, and then we can set up a bonus episode for people to go and watch afterwards. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great, because I have a lot more to say about respecting the chain of command, respecting the actors, respecting the ADs, respecting the roles on a set. I have so much more to say. Respecting a location. So
here's what we're going to do. We are going to pause this right now. And as you can tell, there's an awful lot about set etiquette, and it's difficult to squeeze that into 45 minutes. But we're going to pause now so we can take some of your questions live. So we're both going to look a little different when we take those live. And then we're going to add a bonus episode. How cool is that? We might be the only class doing a bonus episode, which I think is pretty cool. So right now, get ready to ask your questions of Alisha East, the fantastic second AD stroke, a couple of other things that she's been doing over her career in different departments, and myself. And we will come back with the bonus episode in a little bit. Thanks so much.
Welcome, everyone. Alisha, Richard, thank you so much for that amazing presentation on onset etiquette.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And so much valuable information. It really all begins with onset etiquette and how you behave professionally if you're going to take your first step into film. You guys had so much amazing content. We actually have 2 separate videos. This first one, which aired today, and another one, which we'll be uploading at another time.
Yes.
Because there's so much ground to cover. What's a nugget from that second video that we didn't get to cover today that you think might be important to briefly share with our audience tuning in today?
Yeah, I think that we kind of dive into exactly like what respect, that's a big word for me on set, whether it's respecting other crew members, respecting the chain of command, respecting the actors, the background, respecting the location, and then walkie etiquette. We talk about walkie etiquette. We dive into a little bit more about how to communicate on the walkie, what not to do, what to do.
Film has its own language on there.
Its own language. And then, I talk a lot and I have a lot to say, which is why there are 2 videos. But I would honestly recommend going and watching the second video, because we were just getting started on what we have to say about set etiquette. And then I think another big point for me on the second video is being thankful. Regardless of whether it's someone's responsibility in that job to give you a stinger or give you a set of sides or give you a hot brick or provide a ladder or an apple box for you, you should still say Thank you, because it fosters that teamwork and that respect and that environment that we need. That's a more cohesive environment.
Absolutely. It's so important. I mean, if you're going to be spending weeks, months, sometimes maybe a year or more with people, it's important to maintain that teamwork and respective environment. And, you know, these classes are all part of our focus on education. Oklahoma's film industry is booming right now.
Yes,
We're
it is.
having tons of projects, and we need, you know, capable Oklahomans and people to fill those positions. There's a number of educational opportunities outside of this coming up. I know Richard Janes with the Oklahoma Film and TV Academy is getting ready to launch a podcast series, which you're involved with. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what people can look forward to tuning into?
Yeah, so I just completed all of my podcasts. I am doing podcasts in the assistant director department, so that includes all the positions in an AD team as well as PAs. And so I interviewed a lot of my colleagues from Los Angeles, a lot of big-time people who are ADs on Modern Family, The Mandalorian, so many shows that everyone's going to want to check out. And it's basically an in-depth perspective from that specific position, what a second AD is responsible for, what qualities you would need to have to be a second AD. So it's really valuable information, and you're learning from professionals who are actually out there doing it, and it's going to be free. So everyone should check it out and should learn.
That's awesome. And we're so happy to have you back in Oklahoma now.
Thank you. I'm
Working
happy to
here
be
as a
here.
local professional. Where can people connect with you if they have more questions or want to know more based on your experience of the industry?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm on Instagram mostly, and it is ALISHAEAST. So you can find my Instagram account, and I will be more than happy to connect with people there. I'll also give out my email address. If I don't respond the first time, hit me up again. And that's again my name, ALISHAEAST 88@gmail.com. So I'm more than happy in my free time to answer any questions that anyone has about the film industry.
Thank you so much for providing that. And I know, check out also the Oklahoma Film and TV Academy. They have an official website and a Facebook page as well. They're doing in-person classes. They're about to launch this podcast series. So we're just happy to have so many valuable resources and people like yourself willing to impart wisdom, and appreciate you being here today with us.
Thanks for having me,
Yeah,
Yusuf. I
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
And stay tuned for more deadCenter activities and classes coming up next.
Bring 'em up,